Hello and welcome back to the DD Geopolitics live stream. I'm your host and I have good news and bad news, but they're the same news. Chris is not here tonight. He's gallivanting out in Moscow, but I have my my great friend from the other Moscow in Idaho. But happy New Year. Thank you all for joining us today early on in your New Year's. It's way late in Moscow on the biggest holiday of the year. Hopefully, Chris will be sharing some of his celebrations with us, but we are letting him enjoy himself instead of making him work. Happy New Year, Joseph and Nathan and Eddie. My New Year's resolution is to check the emails and respond to them. But for now, let me introduce you to David. If you have not met him before, I was on his show mid-December, and the Zionists really got rankled, called the manager. So I decided to do it again. See if we could start the new year off right. David, how are you? And welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm doing good, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. Happy New Year's Eve. We're going to do it again. They're going to call the manager. They're going to say, you're not allowed to talk to one another. We're not allowed to share ideas and hypothesize about what's going on in the world. You're not allowed to do that. Well, fuck you.
Exactly. And that's what we do. How was Christmas with the kids? You have a nice little brood.
Yeah, Christmas was wonderful. It was great. They've been cut off from sugar, though. They kind of went a little nuts on the chocolate and the Pizzelle cookies. So we've got a moratorium on that. We've discovered that my son the other day opened the refrigerator at like 4 o'clock in the morning, put a straw in the maple syrup container and was drinking it like a milkshake. So they're going to sugar rehab because they've got a problem.
Waking up in the middle of the night with withdrawals. It's like me with the cheese, except it's children with sugar. Probably better than me with cheese. So before the stream today, me and my producer got into a little bit of an argument, and he was saying, something about this, like, it's getting boring. Everything's about Israel. And I was like, well, it's not my fault that they're just taking over. So I just tried to go out and find other things to talk about. And I went to a few like normie spaces because I don't really talk. I don't go out much, obviously. And I don't get to hear I don't get to hear regular American opinion. And they were complaining about Israeli junk bonds. And I was like, I can't get away from it. But you're like in the like grassroots and hometown America. What are people talking about in Idaho? Like, is it really trickling down that far?
Yeah, and it's especially helpful to like monitor Facebook, especially like the boomer section of Facebook, to see what they're talking about there. And over the past year, it has been incredible to see a lot of people on that platform starting to speak up, starting to noticing like here in Idaho, all 4 of our congressional delegates, Jim Risch, Mike Crapo, Mike Simpson, and Russ Fulcher, all of them funded by AIPAC. Russ Fulcher wouldn't even be in Congress if it weren't for Amos Rothstein, his AIPAC handler, who cut that deal for him. So people are starting to notice. There's also a lot of talk about this tax protesting that's going on, this Somali and daycare fraud. And I guess people are attempting to organize tax protests in front of all of the different state capitals on January 2nd or 3rd, January 3rd. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that people are talking about. And also the immigration stuff. The immigration stuff has really taken off, where normally you would have only kind of heard the alt-right talking about deporting everybody, denaturalizing and sending these people home. Normal people are getting really fed up with the amount of aid, welfare, fraud, all of this that's been going on in the United States. And so things are really reaching a boiling point, and it's close. We're very close to something popping off. I think it's just a matter of either war in Russia or Venezuela heating up, perhaps a banking crisis, or something else along those lines. But I think people are on the edge, and they're starting to realize how dire the situation is.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fraud, and I worry. You gotta. There's there's truth, and then there's the exploitation. We obviously understand that there's fraud, but you said it yourself. Things are coming to a boiling point. There's a strategy of tension going on as well, simultaneously. So you're like, I want the fraud gone, but is there something that's trying to like push me to get extremely angry about it at the same time? Or am I angry at the right people or what? So like, that's what we're kind of going to talk about today. And I want your opinion. So I don't really, I got a lot of the MAGA side muted. It's not really in my algorithm that much, but I could not avoid this sort of explosion of the Somali daycare fraud. Now, I remember the Somali daycare fraud going on since the early 2020s. It's been a thing since the 2021 or 2022. It's been under investigation as far as I know. But I start seeing like the vice president sharing this kid out of nowhere. And I'm like, okay. And then I see this one, MAGA voice, which says it's like a checklist. CBS is, they're all checking them off, check them off the block, checking them down. I'm like, who the hell is this kid? And like, what is going on? So I looked into him a little bit, and he's some Mormon kid who did a mission trip to Chile.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, all right. And then, I saw Chris Pavlovsky offer him a sponsorship today. I was like, what the hell is going on? And so that's like where I'm at. I'm like, well, I don't want Somali daycare fraud, but I also don't want my daycare provider allowing some strange Mormon man into the daycare while it's supposed to be operating. And like, who is this strange Mormon kid? So
I was going to say, it's also very interesting to see because I've seen a lot of the Zionist crowd that are starting to use the Somali daycare fraud issue as like a shit test, right? Where, you're talking about all kinds of things going on in the world, but you're silent on the Somalian daycare fraud. Why aren't you talking about that? You're talking about Israel, and you're not talking about Qatar, and you're not talking about Somalian daycare fraud. And it's like, time out. What's going on here? And a lot of this, I think, is intended to get us mad. It's intended to get us riled up. And, I saw a tweet. Sorry, I'm a little schizo. I don't have my coffee with me.
I don't care.
But so there was a video that came out, I think it was in December or February, maybe February of this past year. Donald Trump talking about his new tariff plan, the new tax plans, and all of this, and how we're going to make so much money from all these tariffs that he was floating 9-10 months ago, the idea of abolishing an income tax. And so it is interesting that this issue is being used to rile up the base, to get them to tax protest. They're declaring that they're going to war with the IRS and the FBI over the Somalian daycare fraud. And, there's a big part of me that's like, are they just kind of setting the pins up so that they can knock them down? Have they been planning on perhaps repealing income tax? And then all of a sudden it looks like a big win for the Trump campaign. You see, that's kind of where I think this may be heading, depending on how things go. But it very, very clearly to me that this is being promoted both by the white right, the alt right, whatever, and the Zionists are blowing this up. And we'll be covering this on the Backlash today. It is a big story, and it's not just in Minnesota. It's in Idaho. It's in Washington. It's in Texas, New York. It's across the board that this is happening. But
it's in Brooklyn, New York.
Those aren't Somalians. Those aren't Somalians.
Yeah, I mean, and we had a ton where I was from in Philadelphia, and they weren't Somalians either. They were Philadelphians, but yeah, like it's a very common scheme. I feel like this one specific nexus of it is really being exploited. Not that I want Somalians to get away with fraud in Minnesota. I don't want anybody to get away with fraud.
How about women stay at home and men work, and then we don't need daycare at all?
I know. My God,
all the daycares.
What a dream. Yeah, exactly. The biggest frauds are in Brooklyn. Well, it's a distraction. Anyway, but like, and then the other thing goes viral this week, and it's this guy, his name's Philip S. Formez, and he was guilty of fraud. he ran the largest Medicare fraud in the history of the United States, over $1.3 billion. If you're wondering, yes, his father is a rabbi from an Orthodox Jewish family, et cetera, and an Israeli citizen. He has ties to Dershowitz, who is his lawyer, and the Kushners. What do we know about Jared Kushner? This came out yesterday. Kushner's running the show. So, like, we are worried. I'm not going to fight. I don't want them to do the fraud, but I'm not going to fight with the Somalian for $250 million when you're pardoning the guy who ran the largest healthcare and nursing homes.
Right.
Our elders.
Yes.
I'm not going to do that for you. And that it just felt like really off. Did you happen to, I mean, this is an older story. I mean, he did this in 2020. And then Biden tried to go after him again. And then the guy wound up committing more fraud.
Yes. It's incredible too. And there was a whole organization. I think there's like this Jewish organization that like specializes in rehabilitating criminals. And of course, all the criminals that they're rehabilitating are like white collar. I think JD Vance actually gave a speech at one of their events. This was the one where they were like singing in the background. There can be miracles if you believe. If you remember that, that was one of these Jewish organizations that takes these white collar fraud criminals, starts supporting them, sending them money in their commissary in jail, and then they lobby for pardons. And of course, look no further than Jared Kushner's father, criminal father, who got a pardon from Donald Trump at the last minute during the last administration. We're ruled by criminals, and we have a Jewish oligarchy that is committing fraud on levels that make the Somalians look like peanuts. I mean,
and that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. And you know, and as we all know, Trump is ready to give out pardons left and right.
A pardon? I think you will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way. Mr. President, you can't do better than that, right?
Everybody get a pardon. We're pardoning them all.
Where's the Oprah Winfrey clip? You get a pardon. You get a pardon. Everybody gets a pardon.
So I'm like, all right. And I'm just like, all of this is happening. And you even mentioned that tension is rising. I'm like, there's a strategy of tension here. What is up with this Nick Shirley guy? Then I look where he did his missionary trips. All Latin America, South America. Very interesting. El Salvador, Brazil, Chile. And so I look a little bit further. This comes out today. This is from an Israeli journalist.
How is the Israeli Mossad related to the recent corruption that was discovered in Minnesota? You're not going to believe it, but there actually is a substantial connection, and it runs through the Israeli Prime Minister office. I'll start from the end. Israel just established relationships with Somaliland, which is not Somalia. But the backstory to the whole Minnesota corruption story is that much of those funds, and again, I think the initial number that came out is about $9 billion. And again, this is crazy. American taxpayer money of, let's say, $15 billion that they imagine were stolen or misdiverted from public funds. About $9 billion of those were sent back to support terrorism, or what they would call the Muslim Brotherhood actions, and this is tied into Qatar. And Israel, of course, was behind the scenes, and I know people love these conspiracies, in leaking some of the information that is responsible or related to the funding of terrorism using that exact money. So the fact that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has a phone call and recognizes Somaliland is tied into Qatar being a supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood, tied into the Somali funds that were stolen in Minnesota funding terrorism in the Middle East. That is a story that came out right now. It really blows my mind how global terrorism works, but it's such an amazing thing that it was uncovered, and I'm sure there's more news to come on this topic.
This is quite new. So now we're finding out that because these Somalians in Minnesota aren't living the high life. They live pretty low income lives. They're lower class lives. So where's the money going? It's funding terrorism abroad. Where? The state that Bibi wants to break up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think that there was, if I'm not mistaken, in 2014, that particular daycare that's been getting a lot of play, the Leering Center, right? That's there in Minneapolis. I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, maybe someone in the chat would know, but I'm pretty sure that they were under FBI investigation back in 2014 because people were taking suitcases of cash on airplanes to fund Boko Haram and to fund all of these Muslim terrorist organizations in Africa. Hello.
Who trains and arms Boko Haram? We do.
Yes.
So Israel is laundering our tax dollars through Somali daycares and using that money to buy arms for terrorism in a state that they want to break up. And people think that this is this is a conspiracy. This sounds like a conspiracy. No, this makes sense.
Oh, it does. And especially, I sent you an article that came out a couple of years ago. I think 2023, there's a news outlet here in Idaho, the Idaho Tribune, that ran an article about Jim Rish's connections to the funding of U.S.-backed terrorists that were going around and murdering Somalians on behalf of this new state, Somaliland. We've been funding the civil war in Somalia that has been displacing people and then bringing them here and then giving them the money here that they're bringing back. The whole thing is so unbelievably convoluted, and it speaks to American foreign policy in general over the last 50 years, since the institution of the CIA, really, where we find these areas, we destabilize them on behalf of Israel, our greatest ally. We wind up getting flooded with foreigners, flooded with migrants, and then we use them for these convoluted intelligence front laundering operations to continue and on and on and on. We've seen it in Somalia with this Somaliland civil war, Syria, Libya, Egypt, Iraq, Afghanistan. Hello, what are we doing? What are we doing as a country? It's incredible.
And now it all makes sense. Who lobbied for the Somalis to come here? The Zionists.
Yeah. There you go. Absolutely. It's incredible.
It's really just insane.
Mm-hmm. They're blowing up their own fraud thing as a diversion for what's going on. And by the way, in Chile, we talked about this a little bit on my podcast, The Backlash, a couple of weeks ago, but Chile just had a big presidential election. They elected a new leader. His name escapes me right now. But he is a part of this whole Zionist Catholic alliance that's going on. And he is a full-throated supporter of Israel. And so now we've seen it in Bolivia, Chile, El Salvador, Ecuador. And, you guys talked about this. We've talked about it a lot, but Israel is co-opting our Monroe Doctrine.
Yep.
And nobody's talking about it. Instead, we're talking about the Somalian daycare fraud. We're talking about everything in the world that doesn't matter. And we're being distracted, frankly.
Oh, 100%. But, and so we said Nick Shirley does his little missionary tour. He does 2021 to 2023 in all the countries you just named that are all falling like dominoes. And then he does what? He goes to Israel. And somehow he gets into Gaza. This is a no-name Mormon kid. And he interviews the last mayor of Gaza at the border.
Give me a break.
It's such a joke, and people are buying this, that this is organic. And I'm arguing in a group chat today with a girl. I don't want to name her name because I don't really know her that well. And I don't want to ankle bite, but she's definitely another journalist in the DC area. And I was like, so you think that this story that has been a story since 2021 is coming to the forefront organically, ran by a Mormon kid who just visited Israel this year, after we gave them millions of dollars for Hezbollah. And then I showed her the Israel, and she still doesn't believe it. I showed her the Israeli journalist video. She's like, this is a guy talking on TikTok. So is the journalist that you're trusting that went to the daycare centers.
Unreal.
It's
unreal.
Just, they want to believe it, Dave. I think they want it to be real. It's easier to just say, I don't like Somalians than it is to be like, whoa, there's Israeli imperialism in South America.
Why can't both be true? Why
They don't
can't
have that capacity, I don't think.
Unreal.
I honestly don't think they have that capacity. So, and we talk about, I do anyway. I always say these people, not just the Jews, the Zionists, they're long-term planners. They plan things centuries, if not, I mean, at least decades. And so we're talking about a Somalian daycare scam that could be a decade in the works, over a decade in the works easily. And then, it comes out, which this is my own ignorance. One of the people I follow, Sede, she's, I believe she's Ethiopian, but they've been planning this for 80 years. This is the Harar proposal that wanted to split up Somalia and combine it with another piece of something else with the British and then give it to the Israelis and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So this has been going on forever.
Yeah, and it also plugs in with that Rimland theory. Because if you look at where Somalia is situated, right, kind of on the other side of the strait from Saudi Arabia, that's a very strategic location, especially for oil shipments, tankers, global trade. So they want a foothold on that point to be able to disrupt global trade if people aren't playing nicely, if they're not giving Israel everything that it wants. They want to have that kind of base there. So it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I saw that document pop up on my feed too. Unreal. But we're the conspiracy theorists. We're the crazy ones.
Right. And then this video comes out. So they already built a base and they lied and said it was the UAE's base. Who's the Israelis' biggest ally in the Gulf?
UAE.
The Emiratis.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just a joint use base in Somaliland. This is it's so incredible. It's just, it doesn't stop. Here's Bibi on Somaliland.
Okay, one last question, because now you have to go. Somaliland. I had to look it up on the map. You have recognized Somaliland. You are the first nation to do so. Now that I know where it is, I studied a little history for it, but why? What provoked that and the timing?
Well, Somaliland has 6 million citizens, moderate Muslims. They want to join the Abraham Accords, and I think that's very good. They are Democrats. They've had elections. The rest of Somalia, which is Kochpach, has had al-Shabaab terrorists there. Never had elections since for decades. Got a lot of terrorists coming there. So why not support democratic, moderate country, Muslim country that wants to join the Abraham Accords? I think everybody should do that.
But I guess
if we have to be first.
I guess we didn't see it coming, and you're the first nation, and I'm going, Somaliland?
Yeah, Somaliland, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to go visit Somaliland. I take you can help me get a interview with the president.
I'll do my best.
All right. Thank you, sir. It's always nice to see you, and nice to see you here in the United States.
Thank you. And I can say this. Merry Christmas to all our Christian friends around the world.
I'm going to cut that off right there because that's quite enough.
That's
so and in this interview, he also announces that Israel is now a world power. Now, Israel can recognize states if it's a world power. So now it's going to recognize states that want to join the Abraham Accords. And they created a fake state by creating ethnic conflict inside of Somalia with our tax dollars from Somali daycare centers.
Oh my God. It's true. It's totally. And these people aren't moderates. They're not moderates.
They're moderate Muslim Democrats, he said.
Bro, this is so, come on, man. Have we not fallen for this trick before between the Mujahideen, between Jelani in Syria, and now these rebels in Somalia? They go through village to village with American weapons, with guns that were given to them by our government, slaughtering families door to door. There was an instance in that article where I haven't read the article in a while, so I forget, but they were going door to door, murdering people's families. This is not moderate. This is not democracy. This is just bloodthirsty, genocidal people that are okay with other bloodthirsty, genocidal people. So fucking A, dude. You're gonna make me crash out.
I know. I'm getting there. Hold on. And we mentioned Alan Dershowitz. I can't go without it.
Look, Palestinians haven't earned themselves a state. They have to earn a state the way the Jewish people earned a state over hundreds of years of state building. And you can't just create a state out of nothing. Maybe someday there'll be a Palestinian state, but it can be a state without terrorists, without Hamas, and without the current Palestinian leadership. So I think it's a possible dream for the future, but it's not a reality in my.
You can't just make a state out of nothing.
We haven't earned a state. Okay, so tell me exactly, how did Israel earn its state? Let's ask Zev Jabotinsky. Let's ask, David Ben-Gurion. Let's ask these people. Moshe Dayan? Let's ask these people, how do you earn a state? Well, I think if you asked them and if they were being honest, they would say through terrorism, through blowing up the King David Hotel, through blowing up and raiding these Palestinian villages like what they did at Deir Yassin, where they murdered every woman and child in sight. I mean, if that is earning a state, then yeah, fuck it. Maybe we shouldn't have states, because this is just unbelievable. Not that I believe we shouldn't have states. I'm obviously like a right-wing nationalist, but still, it's just so bold-faced. Holy shit.
But
I mean, really, at what point is Alan Dershowitz going to get on TV and say that white Americans haven't earned a state, that we don't deserve America? At what point? Because that's where this is clearly going. Unreal. It's
quite terrifying. And it doesn't end. And we're just going to continue on. We're creating a fake state out of Somalia. After maybe the Palestinians in the diaspora should have ran scams and money laundering for the Israelis, and the Israelis would have given them a state. It's this total idea of you play along with our game, we'll give you what you want. Just like Maria Machado, I'm a Zionist. All right, we'll overthrow the state for you if we put you in power, or with concessions to other states like the UAE, and if not, we'll just bomb you. They're already talking about bombing Iran again.
Yep. Yeah, and it's incredible. We've got the end of the year. Donald Trump spends his time this past week with the two biggest Jewish warlords on planet Earth, Zelensky and Netanyahu. And he's giving them everything that they want. And I don't know if you have in your notes, I haven't looked at the show notes, but just this week it came out that the Ukrainians tried to bomb President Putin's...
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Sorry, hello, my bad.
I have to do it with Chris all the time too. It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, at first we'll talk about fake states and real states. I guess if fake states that haven't fought for hundreds of years for their states. So Palestine and Gaza. So this week as well, there's been a lot. This is another thing. I think that a lot of the strategy of tension inside is they're going to make a lot of moves on Gaza, because that was shown to be quite an emotional trigger point for Americans in the United States, and not in the good way, not in the way that the energy isn't directed the way the Israelis want it directed. If those protests pick up again, but here is, where did I put it? I don't even remember where I put the video. Never mind. I guess I don't have it. But Bibi said this week that he was going to be taking over Gaza, and Jonathan Pollard also said that he would be. They wanted to make it 100% Jewish. Maybe I have a video. We'll see.
Now, the rest of the world is moving away from Israel, but Trump is moving closer and closer to Israel. And I think he sent a very powerful message to Iran that they better not be developing the capability of sending rockets to Israel.
Never mind. That's the wrong video. But anyway,
sorry.
Why'd you blow your nose?
Yeah, no, but I saw the Jonathan Pollard video. It was incredible. I think it was on 7 News in Israel. Jonathan Pollard is running for Knesset right now. He's long advocated for the use of nuclear weapons against Israel's enemies, up to and including the Samson option. And he is now advocating for a new policy of re-entering Gaza to ethnically cleanse it and turn it 100% Jewish. What are we doing? What are we doing here?
That was the video I asked for, but alas. Anyway, now I'm like discombobulated.
Get it together.
Iran. Oh, there it is.
A repossession of our biblical land in Gaza will basically set the stage for our future. Why? Because it will show our enemies that if you fight us, we will not only defeat you decisively, but we will take back our land as well, permanently, to make sure that they're safe and secure going forward. And the only way that's going to take place is if we have a Jewish Gaza, 100% Jewish Gaza. As far as President Trump is concerned, look, the man likes winners. There's no question about it. It's time we start acting like one. Rather than asking permission to be one, we should simply act like one. And this is why I firmly believe that just as America has a policy of America first, we should have a policy of Israel Rishonah, Israel first.
So there it is. BBL released the same video. I don't know if I have it. I probably labeled it incorrectly because I'm an idiot. But we'll move on to Iran anyway. These Iranian protests are very, very curious. So have you been watching these at all?
I've been seeing them come up. I've been seeing, was it A.L. Jacoby's tweets, putting it out there that, Iran is on the verge. They're on the verge of collapse. They're marching through the streets, demanding blood. They're very upset with the leaders and, all of this, the same bullshit that we saw 6 months ago when we bombed Iran. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess one of Iran's central bankers resigned this week. I think that there's some issues going on with their currency. Hyperinflating or collapsing against the dollar. And of course, this is happening amidst this background of gold and silver having blow off tops. But silver's at what, $70, $75, $72 an ounce. Gold's at like 4,300. So yeah, I mean, I don't listen, when I see these people, when I see these Zionists sharing videos about how Iran and Iranians are marching in the streets calling for a new regime, I am just inherently skeptical that, is there a different reason? Is there another reason why they're out marching around?
That's exactly how I feel. Anything now that's really boosted on Twitter, I immediately take a pause and then try to start digging. I don't immediately assume that it's fake. I just immediately assume, why do they want me to see this? Why do they want this sort of in my face? And obviously, you're economically savvy. Apparently their inflation has skyrocketed and their currency has rapidly devalued. Is that something that outside entities can force? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, could we or the Israelis be crashing their currency?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at what's going on in the commodities markets between oil, so right now an ounce of silver is worth more than a barrel of oil. And so that all plays in these complex factors of trade and how these different commodities rank up against one another. And of course, oil being one of Iran's big assets that they have, by inflating the silver price, that naturally kind of crashes the price of oil in relation to silver. So yeah, I mean, this is all external manipulation, I think, that's aimed at regime change in Iran again.
Right. So we have kind of they created, maybe the conditions are, some are authentic or some are manufactured in the economic sector, but there is a crunch that somebody's feeling. And then so these protests started off with the sort of merchant class or the shopkeepers. And what I found was, while they had some legitimate demands and concerns, the stuff that the Israelis were sharing was a lot more active, a lot more kinetic. And it's all AI. A lot of it is AI. So, and then it becomes sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the Iranians that maybe aren't in the city centers or in the urban areas are now like, well, let's take to the streets. They're in the streets. So it becomes this sort of, and then, there's the stories. Oh my God, this young boy has been shot dead. His family has to release a video of him saying, "Hi, I'm not dead."
Wow.
but then they just they get kinetic because maybe there's people now in Iran that think the mullahs shot this kid dead.
It's unreal. And, I saw on Christmas Eve, there was a video of the supreme leader in Iran. It feels weird to say that. But I saw a video of the supreme leader meeting with a Christian family, actually. And they were kind of talking about the differences between Islam, Christianity, and the Ayatollah was he was praising this mother of a soldier. And it's like, but time out. I thought that Christians got the death penalty in Iran. I didn't think that the mullahs, the terrorist mullahs, would meet with a Christian family and have discourse about the differences in their cultures, in their religions, and have it be a positive, good thing. So that's what I saw going on, coming out of Iran immediately before all of this nonsense about people taking to the streets came out. It was very curious, very curious.
Yeah, and they're even fighting with each other. So here's a video of these were some girls who were trying to lead a protest at a university. You can see the girls are standing there, but the people around them with the Iranian flags are calling them Mossad assets. So it's yeah, exactly. So it's even creating schisms inside, because who knows now if you're, well, regardless, if you're trying to head protests against the government right now, you're definitely working at the behest of Mossad, whether you know it or not. But yeah, so it's causing distrust in the society. Another strategy of tension to hopefully topple the what they want to topple the mullahs. They already overthrew the government. You guys think that Reilly, and I can never say his name correctly, but the foreign minister died in an actual helicopter crash?
No, they were killed. That was an assassination.
Right. So they need to get rid of the religious side too.
Yes.
Right.
No, you're 100% on point with this whole thing. And the thing that's so scary about all of this is, as this is all unfolding, and I've been saying this for a while now, the Israelis are building an empire, right? And I think you've talked about it on your program. We went from Pax Britannica to Pax Americana, and now there is very clearly this global conflict being engineered that will bring us into Pax Judaica, with Israel and Jerusalem as the center of a either a global empire or as the counterbalance to a multipolar world order. And it's very clear that America is being asset stripped in a similar way that the Soviet Union was in the 80s and 90s. It seems clear to me, but I guess people aren't seeing that the same way that I am.
I am glad you're saying it, because I feel like Chicken Little sometimes. I'm like, and this isn't even really affecting me that much, and I'm screaming out loud. Like, I'm okay. I don't work. So, and I don't have a real outside of this life. So I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just overreacting. I see it. I see the Pax Judaica. And when people have to understand, when you understand what Pax Britannica and Pax Americana and Pax Romana were, they were not peace because it was a golden age. It was a forced peace. It was peace through strength. Peace through strength. So it's the surveillance state. It's the things that make you behave. It's enforced peace.
Yeah, and it's also so interesting. I don't know if you have anything in your stack about this, but I saw there was some talk about an enemies list being created in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. I'm not fully aware of all of it. I heard some stuff coming from General Flynn. At first, I thought they were saying that the bad guys, the George Soros, the globalists, that they were making a list of those people. It's not that's not what's happening. They're making a list of us. They're making a list of anybody that will stand up against this Jewish imperialism. And, then they're provoking all of these people to come out on Twitter, on Facebook, saying, I'm going to tax protest. I'm just going to stop paying. I'm going to commit a felony tax evasion, and they're saying it on a program that's like this with Palantir, who, by the way, just modernized the Treasury Department. They just modernized the IRS. And so, you know, it was one thing to tax protest in the 70s or the 80s when it actually meant something, when we went off the gold standard and we went to this goofy fiat petrodollar system. But now, if you're thinking you're going to get away with tax protesting and announcing it for the world to see on twitter.com, and you're not going to have your door kicked in by the IRS or the FBI, or that you're not going to be put on some sort of a list, you're crazy. You don't know what time it is in this country, because the tyranny, the technocracy tyranny, is like knocking at the door right now.
100%. And we covered the Pam Bondi memo very thoroughly on our program when it came out. And if you go back and read the language in it, it says anti-American, anti-capitalist. Do you think not paying your taxes fits into those categories? You're going on Bondi's list. And then you go on the DHS list. And then you can't even travel in the country. Not an international. You won't be able to fly.
They've got this real ID thing. I ran into this like 8 months ago when I went to the airport. I totally forgot about it. I showed up to board my plane and I don't have a real ID, and I'm not going to get it because the only people that I've ever seen say you should get your real ID. It'll help crack down on illegal immigration. Every person that I've ever seen say that is a Zionist Jew. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want a real ID. I'm going to kick that can as long as I possibly can. So I get to the airport. They won't let me on the airplane. I had to drive all the way home, get my passport just to fly domestically. So where are we going to be in 4 years, 5 years? Are we going to be able to travel in this country without having checkpoints? And, you're on the anti-Semite list. You're not allowed to leave the state. It could be a very real possibility. Not to be too doomer on this wonderful New Year's Eve, but
I mean,
hey.
well, why not? Oh, why not?
People need to be living in reality, and that's like a lot of this. That we've kind of crossed. Everybody says, "Oh, the Overton window is shifting." Friends, there is no Overton window anymore.
There's no house.
The house burned down. The block burned down. There is no window. We have a pick your own reality. You remember those children's books where it's pick your own ending, right? You're reading, and then if he opens the door, skip to page 75, right? And that's more akin to the world that we live in. And the hardest thing is to figure out what is real at this point. Because we've got all the propaganda. They're creating and they're affecting the way that we see the world. And 9 times out of 10, when you talk to people, especially in the MAGA camp, it's just you're not living in reality at this point. The reality is the stuff that we've been discussing on this show, on my show, The Backlash. That's reality. It's not this manufactured outrage that changes once a week, like inserting a new chip on what should we be outraged about this week. It's incredible.
And they're not getting the legwork or the longevity they need out of these crises. So they're just back. They only got 2-3 weeks out of Charlie Kirk. Everybody's over it. They're done with it. They're even done with TPUSA. They've wrung that turnip for all the blood it's worth.
Yes.
And these tragedies are back to Brown, Bondi, this, that, the other thing, another shooting, and now this, and now Somali fraud. And it's like, it's the American people, they have to be exhausted.
I'm tired, boss.
I am exhausted too. We were going to talk about Russian flights to Iran, and I'm just like, I don't care anymore. But anyway, Russia's flying to Iran. Russia's arming Iran. And here, we'll give David a reprieve. Here's a BB on the Iranian protest.
Well, you and I have spoken many times before, and you always point out that the beef that Israel has is not with the Iranian people, it's with the Iranian regime.
Right.
And now, in the last few days, they've had a series of protests, people out in the street because they've had a currency collapse. Do you see this as perhaps a big change maybe coming in Iran, or is this just something that Iran is going through right now?
Well, they're going through it for a very simple reason. This tyrannical regime has oppressed the people of Iran. They're a great people. enormously gifted with a great past, and they could have a great future. But this future has been taken over, really hijacked by these theological thugs, the mullahs and the ayatollah who's on top of them. And what did they do? They took the billions that they had and put them, chasing nuclear weapons and proxy terror groups instead of giving it to the people. So the people don't have food, they don't have electricity, they don't have water. Iran could be one of the richest countries in the world. Their GDP with 100 million people, almost 100 million people, is smaller than Israel's with 10 million people. They've robbed their people of the future, and the people are expressing it now in protest. If you have a change, it'll come from within. It's up to the Iranian people, and we understand what they're going through, and we're very sympathetic to them.
What's actually sort of parallels what's going on in Venezuela, though. The people there in Venezuela, they've got hyperinflation up to something like 555%. I read recently, which I thought was almost impossible numerically. But they're starving. They are one of the richest. They're the richest country, or could be in our hemisphere. Because of their supply of petroleum or oil.
Right. Well, when you have these tyrannical regimes, these dictatorial regimes that suppress any initiative, any free market economies, but any human rights, the people eventually speak up, and that's what they're doing now in Iran. No question about it.
In your wildest dreams.
Yeah, my wildest dreams. This is a complete inversion of reality. The Venezuelan regime, the Iranian regime, they have no consideration for human rights, as I genocide the Palestinians with a straight face. We got to overthrow these Venezuelan and Iranian regimes. They could be they always have to say they could be the richest countries in the world.
These people are gangsters. This is like classic mafia tactics, where they're going, oh, you could be very rich if you just keep your mouth shut, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when are we going to finally see American? And of course, we're never going to see it, but I'm looking forward to the day when we have American politicians that are talking about regime changing Israel, because that's what needs to happen. There will be no global peace until those people, Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, Isaac Herzog, until these people are in prison. They need to be locked up. Israel does not deserve to be a state. It's just, you're going to make me crash out, Sarah.
You're going on Bondi's list.
I'm totally going on Bondi's list.
Well, all right. I won't make you crash out. We'll move on to your spoiler. From one set of Jews to the other set of Jews, here's Arestovich.
Западных стран говорят следующее. По их информации, удар был. Раз. Это не я утверждаю. Это они говорят. Второе. Это была не просто резиденция. Это специальный объект Российской Федерации, предназначен для управления вооруженными силами Российской Федерации в случае ядерной войны. То есть по значению это как если бы кто-то атаковал борт номер 1, президентский самолет США. Это спецобъект, это целый город с наружными сооружениями, подземными сооружениями и там всякими узлами связи. По информации таксистов западных, летели дроны 91 или 91, никто не знает, 2 или 3, но летели они, скорее всего, по узлам связи, они уточняют эту информацию и не долетели, прямо скажем. Но удар был. Почему россияне глубоко возмущены? Потому что это удар по центру управления ядерной триадой и вообще вооруженными силами Российской Федерации в особый период, в период крупномасштабной войны, ядерной и так далее. То есть это покушение святая на святых, и согласно российской ядерной доктрине, да и ядерной доктрине любого государства, имеющего ядерное оружие, это повод для ядерного ответа. И его они не будут бить тактическим ядерным оружием. Это резкая эскалация, смена всей международной рамки. Это они не пойдут. А вот всякими там орешник может прилететь. Там, то, что полетит баллистика по центру принятия решений, я думаю, практически 100%.
This was akin to the Ukrainians attacking Air Force One.
How would we respond if somebody attacked Air Force One?
They'd be nuked.
They would be nuked immediately.
They'd be nuked. But what do we expect something from them? And they did this while Trump was meeting with Zelensky.
And even crazier. So I don't know what you've heard, but through some of my sources, I've been hearing that President Donald Trump had no idea that this was taking place, pointing to perhaps that this was a plot of actually the English. It was an MI5, perhaps, orchestrating this play without the United States being aware, which would draw us into global thermonuclear war. And of course, the Russians have been canging a little bit. I'm sure you've seen the secret radio base that broadcasts
Swan Lake.
Buzzing. They started broadcasting Swan Lake. There was some weird folk song about bombing the West that they started playing. So I don't know if they're canging or if they're dead serious, but this situation could get really hot really quick. It is extremely irresponsible, to say the least, for this to be attacking this type of Russian facility. Oh my God. They really want to draw us into World War III, and Israel will be the victors. They will walk away with the global empire if this war is allowed to spiral out of control. And we are teetering on the edge of it.
Well, here is a warning from one of my favorites, President Lukashenko.
Но просто предупредить хочу, что это закончится бедой. Бедой. В России есть чем бахнуть по центрам принятия решения, что камня на камне не останется. Надо остановиться.
But, I mean, there has to be a Western intelligence branch involved in this, whether it's MI6, Mossad, CIA, there's somebody involved in the targeting. So I don't know. I think it's quite scary.
Yeah. I honestly don't understand why Russia hasn't moved to take out Zelensky at this point, or to bomb Kiev. I don't understand what their thinking is. I mean, there is for sure a significant difference in the way that the Eastern and Western governments function. In Russia, it's very centralized. Putin is actually in control of his government in a way that Donald Trump is not. Trump is not in control of the American deep state. He's not in control of the CIA. He might even be scared of CIA and Mossad. And so I just don't understand why they're dilly-dallying, why they're allowing this to continue.
Wait, breaking news just came in. The producer just sent me a story. It's the New York Post article. Now we know that what the New York Post is used for. The New York Post right now is used to confirm the narrative that the regime is putting out. It's all, especially if it's Zionist. So we all know that New York Post is just slop. So the New York Post wrote a story that the attack on Putin was faked, that Russia is faking this attack to ruin peace talks. And Trump reposted it.
Jeez. Unreal. This is going to spiral out of control.
Out of control. So now he's saying that Putin lied or is lying to cut off peace talks. Why wouldn't they just walk away from peace talks if that was the case?
This is, somebody needs to get a message to Putin. Like, I don't understand what they are waiting for at this point. The West clearly, especially Western intelligence, does not want peace.
No.
They want war. They've always wanted war. They've wanted this all the way back. I mean, you remember even in 2016, Donald Trump was up on stage debating Hillary Clinton, talking about how she wanted to start World War III. Well, where are we at, and what effectively has happened? Have we stopped that plot? No, we haven't. The same people are in power in the CIA. The same people are in power in MI6, Mossad. Nothing has been done to stop the escalation here. And Lukashenko is right. This is going to end in disaster. Geez, God help us.
Right. Well, we're at least four Russian cargo planes have landed in Iran in the last 48 hours.
Wow. That's significant.
And the CIA bombed Venezuela.
Yeah.
So, I mean, aren't we in World War III then?
You know, there's a big argument. There's an argument that could be made that we've been in World War III for some time, actually. You know, when you look at what's been going on, it's just a matter of defining what World War III is. Because if you look at what's happening in the gold and the silver prices, that's economic warfare that's going on. If you look at what's going on TikTok and X and all of these social media platforms, that's cultural warfare that's going on. And it's happening all over the world. So, I mean, just because people aren't out there with guns and boots on the ground doesn't mean that we aren't in the middle of it right now.
Someone has a question for you before we go.
Oh,
I love this. Assume Russia takes the port of Odessa. If Russia can somehow reach the Hungarian border, isn't that the end of NATO? Because Russia can get their military all the way to Western Serbia.
wow. That's an interesting question. I haven't even thought of it, but yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be good. I mean, I feel like that would almost that itself would trigger war, right? I mean, because isn't the whole point that there was supposed to be a buffer state?
Yes.
Between Russia and NATO. So if they were to advance that far, then de facto there would be no buffer. And I think these psychos over at NATO and in Western intelligence, I think that they would immediately start bombing. So, I mean, one way or another, it would be an end to NATO, whether, one way or another, kinetic or otherwise.
Don't you see the Abraham, Isaac, and all of that other crap? Those are just Israeli NATOs.
Yes.
And I feel like they're being made on purpose. The destruction of Europe is all but finished. And I was watching an Israeli interview today, not to get us off on another tangent, but I was watching an Israeli interview about we need to go after Russia next. And in that same space that I was in where they were complaining about Israeli junk bonds, an Israeli came up screaming that we will go after Russia next. Russia is next. And I was, is this like a common theme? So maybe they're building a counterweight to the Russian BRICS or the Russian alliances or whatever. And that they see that that NATO is going to fall apart. It's very scary.
Yeah. And not only that, but then you've also got, Bibi Netanyahu. I'm sure you covered this on your show, going around talking about how he's reading this book about the war between Jerusalem and Rome, and that we're going to win the next war against Rome. And there are many people in the Israeli government that have equated America with the new Rome. So are they planning on going to, I mean, in an effect, they kind of already are at war with us, right? They opened their 8th front, their social media front in their war. So the Israelis are at war with America. And meanwhile, we've got these retard MAGA people going, they're our greatest ally. It's hopeless. Maybe it's not hopeless, but people have got to wake up and get smart.
Oh, guys, somebody asked for the source for the Somali daycare fraud connected to Israel. Check out Gen X Girl's profile. And if you guys aren't following her, you need to follow her. I use her stuff like every episode. But anyway, I will let David go since he has to take a respite before he goes on his show to feed you all more black pills. Guys, please make sure you go to the Backlash. Watch it today. I share it on the DDG channel whenever I see it. But backlash.net, thebacklash.net. David, why don't you let us know where you want everybody to find you, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want, you can get all of like my links. I think I've got like a Telegram channel, which I've been using a little bit more, my Twitter, Instagram, all that. If you go to David J. Reilly, REILLY.com, that'll pull up my link tree with all my stuff. If somebody out there wants to send me Bitcoin, please, God.
David loves Bitcoin. Guys, all of David's links are in the description. Check him out today. His co-host is super hot. Go check her out. Go check. That's why I watch.
Blonde in the belly of the beast. Absolutely. And tonight will also be our first show back with the one and only Cameron McGregor.
We love Cameron.
He'll be giving us some updates on the war in Ukraine and also on all of this nonsense that's been going on in the precious metal markets and the banking sector, because it seems like we are right on the edge of some major banks failing. So we'll see.
One went down already this week. So
allegedly, we're still kind of, we heard about that. And was that just poly market manipulation? Because there was like a poly market for that. So they put all of this information out there, the poly market spikes, And then anybody that had bought yes at 10 cents, they could unload their shares at 72 cents and make a bunch of money. So we don't even know if that's true. It could just be manipulation in the opinion polls or the poly markets or whatever.
This is terrifying. Well, happy Jew year. I mean, New Year.
happy Jew year to you too, Sarah. God bless. And thank you for having me on.
At your stream, David. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Well, I know you guys miss Chris, so I will leave you with his New Year's message, which is probably obnoxious, as Chris is. Dear friend, dear Abar channel, Andrei Sergeyevich Afanasyev, war correspondent for Spas TV channel, sends us a warm message from Avdiivka in the Donetsk People's Republic that was liberated by the Russian armed forces. This New Year's, let's remember that the special military operation is not only a war against fascism, Chris, but Satanism and globalism. Russia will be victorious. It is a war against Satanism. Thank you all for joining me. Chris will be sober, maybe, and back on Sunday. Hopefully, again, he shares some of the footage from Moscow celebrations because they're huge. But pay attention to the page. I'll try to share as much from the New Year's as I can. The Asian ones are amazing. I hope you all have a really happy and safe New Year. And I will pass all of your well wishes off to Chris. And I will leave you with this message from Andrei Sergeyevich.
To all our friends from United States and worldwide who support Russia. My name is Andrei Afanasyev and I'm a military correspondent of Spas TV channel, a major Orthodox TV station here in Russia. We're in Avdiivka, a city that was liberated in beginning of 2024. The front line went further to the west, and we have a very good tradition here to change the banners with Jesus Christ, the most popular uniting symbol of special military operation. We take these banners from the battlefield, from the war zone, and take them to churches, monasteries, and prominent Orthodox people, and change the banners with the new ones, just like the guards in palaces and military academies. God is always with us. God is on our side, and we thank all the people around the world who are praying for Russia and for the Christianity that is now fighting for the survival not only of our country and our people, but the whole world. We feel your support. We know that a lot of people support Russia and understand what we are fighting for, and hope to see all of you here one day to celebrate the victory of Christian faith and sanity over the globalist Satanism we all now face. God may be with all of you. Thank you, brothers.